Welcome back to Scotch and Scripture. My name's Rob. This is my wee whiskey and scripture channel. Glad you're here. Today we're doing the Jura 10 and talking a little bit about why it's kind of hard to believe for some things than it is to believe for others. So if that sounds good to you, let's not delay. Let's get into it. Scotch and Scripture. Alright, well, welcome back. To be honest, it feels like I've been gone for a wee while. It might not mean that at all to you because you might be watching 2 or 3 videos in a row and I was with you like 2 seconds ago talking about something else. Or you may not have a clue who I am and none of this matters, but I was gone for I haven't done a video in like 3 weeks, which if you listen to the YouTube, I don't know what you want to call them, influencers, like the guys who like tell you how to build a YouTube channel, that's like a cardinal sin. But honestly, just I don't have time to do that every single week or 3 times a week. I mean, who's really got time for that, you know? Today we're going to do Jura 10 and the reason why I like Jura 10, well, there's a few reasons, but one, look at this bottle. This bottle is a good looking little bottle. It kind of looks like an old school bourbon bottle that you'd find in an antique shop or like a bottle of snake oil, something like that. I like the way that it's shaped. I like the little bit of packaging. I like they just keep it nice and simple, Jura 10. I like that it's aged for 10 years in American oak and then finished in Oloroso sherry butts, and I particularly like that you can pick this up for about $40 US. This is a really inexpensive, good way to get into single malt that has a little bit more character than some of the more cheaper options. Jura is an island on the west coast of Scotland and it's very close to Islay, but it's not an Islay whiskey, it is a Highland whiskey. To be more precise, it's an island whiskey, but it still comes under the Highland region, the Highland classification. Some people think it's an Islay because it's so close. It's not an Islay. Just take it from me, it's not. It is a Highland/island whiskey and really inexpensive, so it's not bad. Jura, I've never been to Jura. I've heard that it's a pretty island. It's the kind of place where, like, if you grew up in Adventure Scouts or something like that in Scotland, you probably went on a trip to Jura or one of these places. I never did any of that stuff. I was in the Cubs and the Scouts for, I don't know, like 2 minutes. I wasn't that interested. I was into playing guitar and trying to be a rock star, an apprentice rock star, and hanging out in smoky band rooms in Glasgow, while others were exploring the beautiful, awe-inspiring nature that is Scotland. I wasn't doing that, so I'm making up for it now. But Jura is the kind of place where you go exploring, maybe go camping. I think a lot of people like to sail around it, and I think you can go up to, you know, dock there, and it's one of those beautiful, one of those islands where you have those beautiful white beaches that you see. What's that movie with Chris Pine in it about Robert the Bruce? Outlaw King. And Outlaw King, yeah, actually that's the island of Islay, when they go to Islay and they kind of hang out there and figure out what they're going to do next. That's a good example of a Scottish beach. The beautiful white sands, unspoiled sands, but freezing cold wind, so you know, you can't have it all. So for a 10 year, it's got a really pleasing nose straight away, unmistakably sherry butt influence, little honey, kind of a warming dried fruit, very delicate wood smoke, peachy, and just a really sense of a warming little whiskey, you know. 10 years in barrels, so 10 seconds on the palate, Slainte Mhath. On the palate, at first you get a little spice, and then it kind of moves into this kind of vanilla, warm caramel, real pleasant sweetness, and you just get this little hint of smoke. It is lightly peated. The notes say like chocolate covered raisins. I guess that's probably true. That's probably the sherry influence. And then on the finish you get a little bit more of that smoke coming through. And it's got a very kind of a neutral finish. It's not bitter, it's not overly sweet, it doesn't linger too long, it's just kind of warming. I just think for the money this is just an excellent place, like, because it kind of ticks all boxes. Some of the other like more inexpensive whiskies that we've covered on the channel, it tended to be pretty much down the line for the region they've been part of, but for this, it's one of these whiskies that kind of covers a lot of different ground on it, and it's really approachable. It's sweet, it's a little savoury in there, it's got that smoke, there's a little bit of everything. I would say this is a great entry point if you're into bourbon. You'd probably find a lot of common ground here, especially the kind of honeyed aspect. I'm telling you what, see, for the money, this is up there for like the most approachable, inexpensive ways to start with Scotch. Jura 10, plus great looking little bottle, nice little package, Make an excellent gift. Hey, it's nearly Christmas time, so this could be a good one for you. Very pleasant. This is definitely one that punches above its weight. I love it when whiskies do that because you can easily spend, 70, 90, over $100 on a whiskey and really struggle to enjoy it. And then every now and then you get a bottle like this, it's like $40 and it's just really easy. It's a nice pleasing bottle that's approachable. It's not too expensive. It's not too complex. It just kind of delivers right where you want it to deliver. Value for money, really nice flavour, a nice one just to sip on slowly. Yeah, it's definitely a winner. Great colour too, look at that. Beautiful kind of dark gold, gorgeous looking whiskey. Very, very good. Why is it harder to believe for some things than it is for others? It's not just me, right? Is it? I don't think it is. I've had a lot of conversations recently with guys that this kind of been a theme, And belief is interesting. I've been reading through Mark, and the amount of times in Mark where, Mark as a gospel is quite condensed, it's quite boom, 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 linear, just kind of like crashes straight into Jesus' ministry, which is a great starting point. But Jesus continues to say to disciples, look, where's your belief? Do you still not believe? When will you believe? And he starts to demonstrate these things to them that they might believe. And I always think it's interesting that later on, Jesus will say to his disciples, blessed are those who believe but have not seen, because they all had the blessing of actually spending time with Jesus in person on the earth. But we are blessed because we believe and we haven't seen him. But there are some things that are harder to believe for than others, and it's been something I've been really thinking about recently. Like, why is it easier to believe that when we die we're going to heaven than it is to believe for a miracle here on earth while we're here? Why is it harder to believe for miracles in our own lives than it is to believe for other people? What is that? Again, it's not just me, is it? I don't think it is. In Mark 11, Jesus does this. People talk about Jesus trashing the temple as if he lost his temper, but Jesus visited the temple the night before. It says in Mark 11, he went in, he took a look around and he saw what was happening, and then he left. And then he comes back the next day and he upturns the tables and chases people out. Jesus didn't lose control. Jesus knew exactly what he was doing in that moment. And also during Mark 11, there's a moment where they walk past this fig tree. It says Jesus wanted to get a fig, something to eat. There's no figs on the tree, and so he curses it. It says, may you never bear fruit again. Walks on. Next day they come back, they see this fig tree is withered away to nothing. And Jesus is using these things, and he stops them and he says, hey, look, faith in God. I'm going to paraphrase here, but he says, you can move. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move this. You can say to this mountain, be cast into the sea, and it'll be done for you. And obviously that's a metaphorical thing. We know you've had that sermon a million times. What's a mountain in your life that needs to get moved? Da, 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 da. But there's still this illustration of a thing that you have to believe for it. Because there's a caveat. Jesus doesn't just say, hey, you can tell that mountain to move and it'll be moved. Jesus said, if you have faith this size, you can say to this mountain it'll be moved. So there's a requirement to have faith. And I think sometimes some of the problem for us is that when something isn't happening that you're praying about, you're going, man, how small is this faith seed that I have? Because this thing isn't being done, and it's not nearly as big as moving a mountain into the sea. This is a problem with work. This is a problem with a relationship. This is a financial thing. This is, a multifaceted family drama, whatever it might be. And I don't seem to be getting the result I need. How much faith do I really have? And I feel like that's kind of a perplexing thing that a lot of us have to deal with. And yet, if you have a friend who simultaneously comes up to you and says, hey, I need prayer for this, or my kid's not well, or I need a job, and you go, no problem, pray for you, it's so much easier to believe that person will receive it. So what is that about? And all this was kind of spurred on from this film that I saw. There's a new movie about Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I haven't seen it yet, but there's an older movie about him that's on Amazon. I was really struck by the moment where Bonhoeffer's been led out of his cell to go to be executed. The Nazi guard, or the Gestapo guy, says to him, for you this is the end. And Bonhoeffer says, no, it's not. And he kind of has this look of confidence on his face, and the last thing you see in the movie is him just walking away from the guard towards the noose. And I remember thinking, man, like, there's something in that quiet possession of faith that speaks so much louder than a louder profession. And I think maybe that's kind of the thing that's being got at here. It's this quiet confidence that is the mustard seed, the loud profession of faith, the faith that's professed publicly. We've all seen that. We've all seen when somebody's professed something publicly and it maybe hasn't worked out, and it kind of can be to the detriment of them and to others. And there's so much that goes into it. Like, what were they asking for? Is this something that aligns with God's will for them in their life? Is it something that aligns with God's general will? Like, is this an okay thing to ask for? Is there an issue with their life where there's maybe a lid on what they're going to be able to receive from prayer? But I think the example from Bonhoeffer was this quiet, enduring, this weather-worn, beaten ember of flame inside that just gives the confidence. I think that's what Jesus is getting at here. It's like, if you just had some faith to believe, you'd be all right. I mean, is it of any consequence to us how God chooses to answer a prayer? I think in matters of faith, if you feel convicted to pray for something, maybe God lays something on your heart and you're like, okay, I'm going to pray about this. So for example, we made a big family move about 1.5 years ago now. Leading up to that, there's like a big conviction in your heart going, okay, how do we get this done? And I think really the peace only came for that move when we kind of went, you know what, I'm not going to worry. We're not going to worry anymore, because if God's shown us that He wants us to move, then He's going to have to provide. He's going to have to show the way. The only thing that's required of us is obedience in that moment. And so it's the obedience to faith, I think, which is the mustard seed. The method in which, like, the way that the mountain is lifted, we're not told by the illustration that Jesus gives us. We're not told if it dissolves, crumbles and then falls into the sea. We're not told if it's ripped out by an army of angels and thrown into the sea. We're not told if it just simply, like a hologram, just kind of wobbles and disappears. He does use the illustration of the mountain could be thrown into the sea, but he doesn't say how that will be done. He doesn't talk about the physical mechanic of that. And I think there's something in the faith journey where, like, we get so hung up about how God is going to answer the prayer, where really the article of faith is just to go, okay, I believe that you will. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm here for it. I'm trusting you in it, and I believe it's going to take place. And just kind of committing to that and being all right with it. I had this quote one time that's really kind of helped me. It said, never presume which way God is going to answer your prayers. And I thought, man, I've tried to presume that. I've presumed so many times, and it's actually an incredible relief. And so this is kind of where I'm coming to here, in case you're wondering. There's kind of a fundamental question of, do we take Jesus at His word or not? And hopefully we do, because otherwise, what are we doing? But if Jesus is saying, if you believe, if you get faith, you can make these big things happen, or you can make these problems go, you can handle life, you can pray, you can ask for whatever you wish and it will be done, all these things. Are we taking Jesus at His word or not? Or are we taking Jesus at His word and going, okay, you've told me to believe for this, so I'm now going to go and do the part that actually you do? And do we get in the way of God when He's going to answer our prayers by trying to answer it with Him, by trying to help Him? Go, right, God, I appreciate what you're saying to me, but I feel like if we do it this way, it'll happen quicker. Everybody will be happy and we can get on with the next thing. But that's just not the way that God operates at all. He's not in a hurry. He's much more interested in our character than He is about our comfort or our status or any of these things. The currency of prayer is faith, is belief, and belief is relief. Belief is relief. If you are able to believe that God is going to answer the prayer, that He's going to answer the issue, He's going to deal with the thing, then there's tremendous relief in that, because you really don't have to worry about it. You've committed at that point to going, all right, I just believe you're going to do this thing. I believe you are who you say you are. I believe you do the things you say you do today, as you did yesterday, as you will do in the future. And I'm just going to park my faith right here and believe. I think there's tremendous relief in that. That's unburdening yourself. And we're supposed to unburden ourselves, supposed to cast our burdens upon Him because He cares for us. So if you're feeling tense, if you're struggling and you've kind of got caught up in the how-to instead of the who, my encouragement to you is just take a step back, revisit the prayer, revisit the issue, and just believe that God's got it, that He's going to handle it, and He's going to handle it in the way that is best for your life. And sometimes that means no, sometimes it means not yet, sometimes it means yes. But trusting in it never ever means disappointment. It always means that God's doing something in your life that's going to be better for you, just to trust in Him. And while you're thinking about that, maybe you could get yourself a little bottle of the Jura 10. And if you want a little bottle of Jura 10 and you want to have one of these little Glencairn glasses, there is a link underneath where to get one of these, and you get a little water droppers, and it just kind of makes the whole set nice, especially coming up to Christmas. And if you're enjoying these wee videos, do us a favour, like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. I really, really appreciate all the comments recently, people checking in and sharing things that have encouraged them and whatnot. That's really humbling and brilliant, and I'm really enjoying this little community that we're building together. $40, can't go wrong. Not a bad thing. I hope that you enjoy whatever dram you're sipping on. May God bless you, may God keep you, and bless your family. Slainte Mhath.